6:30, and I'm going to call the meeting to order. Good evening, everyone. And for Bel Aire workshop, our first item on the agenda is communications, website update, and Tristan is here to talk with us and tell us all the wonderful things she's been doing with the website. And I've looked over it. It looks, I like it.
Well, that's great.
Few tweaks here and there, but that's fine.
Yeah.
It's just how it is.
Yeah.
Great.
Well, I'm excited to share some of those updates with everyone and kind of go over those with you. And so with my staff reports, I've shared that the website redesign began around the end of.
Is your microphone
Yes,
on?
it is. Yes, it is. I can take one. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm 6 feet away. Okay. So the website redesign began at the end September 2020, and it just went live March 2nd. The transition went really smooth. It's called an in-place redesign, so there's never any interruptions or service or anything like that. We had an internal website redesign team, and that was myself, Ashley from the Rec Center, and Melissa, our city clerk. We are the ones who edit the page most often within our departments, and so we tend to get a lot of feedback on the website, and we have a lot of personal experience. So prior to the kickoff meeting with them in September, we did launch a small survey on our website that just asked visitors of the website what they like, dislike, things they would like to see, so we could get that feedback. We researched the analytics, and we researched multiple websites, and that was kind of all the information we brought to that kickoff meeting, with defining what we liked and what we disliked and kind of figuring out those goals of what we wanted this redesign to accomplish. The main goal was to improve accessibility of the various amounts of information that we offer on our website, and really bring as much information to that front home page to create less clicks and to be an easier search for our residents. So with all that being said, I just wanted to kind of go over some of the improvements, updates with you. Just starting at the very top of the page, as you can see, we have here, let me turn this on real fast. We have our search bar here, and that is in the same location as the last search bar, but we've made it more where you can see it better, where it's easier to find. And then we also added some quick links underneath, where I can tell from analytics on kind of what people are searching, and I can update those as needed. Another thing we did, we actually shortened this banner. One thing we found was that while our past website, it was really beautiful, the banner was really large, and it took a long time to scroll through that banner to get to any of the real information in the website. So we really shortened that up, but we still kind of kept it that big, beautiful, bold picture there. This accomplished moving these icons up where you can find them easier and you can see them. We also made sure that our colors really made these icons stick out, because what we found out from this survey was that the information people were looking for could actually be found maybe within these buttons, but they were kind of missing those buttons. So we hope with the visibility of that the agendas and meetings, the watch meetings live button, all those will just be easier to find. Now this section is my favorite section, and this is because it became a really easy, professional way to bring a lot of information to the front. So it's a popular links section. I plan to update this as much as needed. Seasonally is kind of what I have in my head. So as we're kind of switching seasons, when things kind of change, as we get into that winter season, I'll do snow plowing, that kind of things. Currently, we have like Explore Bel Aire Parks. It's the summer. We know people might be wanting to get out and about. We have vacation watch request. A lot of people are going to be leaving for the summers, and they might not know that our police officers actually do have a program where they will drive by and check their homes. Backflow device information, that's really popular right now. So I'm really excited about this section because I think it's a really nice way for people to find some of that information rather quickly. Just keeping scrolling down. So this is a news flash section. It just allows us to share some of our stories, some of our information, some of our things that maybe have changed. We've had some changes with Brushite. We just recognize as Coach Barnwell. So this is a place where we can share all those things. It's similar to what we've had on our past website, but we just moved it down so that that information that people might be wanting to find quickly is above that. And then we have our stories below that. And then we come to our calendar section. So another thing on our feedback with that survey is that people were wanting to see the events more far out. We were just featuring I think it was about 5 days in advance. We were kind of doing, it was a shorter amount of time. And so we changed the calendar to feature the full month where the days are highlighted, where they can see what days are on. And then the list underneath just shows what is happening on those times. This is a featured section. I was kind of hoping to have a place where we can feature some of these events on. So right now I'm highlighting citywide garage sales. We can put multiple events, or I can just change that as needed on what it will be.
When do you scroll into May? Or is that button on the right of the month allow you to do that?
Yep.
Okay.
So you can scroll through that. This is also, so this is the meetings tab. You can click on this and see the events tab. And that kind of switches on which kind of categories you want to view. And then also, so our screens, our websites are all mobile responsive. So as it's bigger, these events on a bigger screen will actually move out onto the side of this and make this a little less space right here. And then we have a kind of, I call it our contact us section. It's just how can we help? It puts it all in one place. You can report a problem, that it goes to a form where you can write whatever kind of a concern, a suggestion. It's pretty vague so that anybody can put what kind of problem or issue they're having in this form right here. We have an Ask City Council section. So this will actually go to your guys's names, contact information. It'll go straight to that page. Ask Your Mayor, that goes directly to your specific information page. And then we have a staff directory in case someone wants to contact one of the staff members here at City Hall. And then we're just down back at the bottom of the page. I will say when you go to some of these internal pages, let's just go to here. This is kind of what an internal, with the icons still being present. So if they ever need to get back to one of these sections, and the search bar is still available at the top. So you still get some of those navigation things also internally as well. The navigation bar up top. So if you type in something, it will kind of pick up pages, alternate text, things like that, that we currently have on our website that might be helpful for them. So it kind of intuitive on maybe things that they're searching for. So really, that is kind of my just preview share of updates. Did anybody have any questions on the website or have any thoughts to share?
I guess I'd just say I look for those big buttons, so I like that they were a shorter scroll, so I certainly noticed that right away.
Yeah, this looks really good.
Thank you.
How far away are we from like permitting currently? It looks like I click on it and I'm gonna get a PDF if I wanna pull on my mouse, and then I would have to
So
print that, scan it, and email it.
that's correct. Right now, that is how it's doing. But we are in the final stages of iWorks, which is handling all of our building permits and able to do that online. You can you go through that process online. You can make inspections. You can schedule an inspection online, that type of thing. So that is coming. I don't have a for sure date, but it's definitely in the works and it should be out here.
Okay, I haven't had time to look at the rest of it. So for the permits, you're saying that it's gonna go away. Are there any other forms on here that are like download a PDF, scan right now, and email it back, please?
Let me think of some of the form PDFs we have. So our utilities were, well, let me just go see here. I really can't think of much. We may have some city clerk forms. We do tend to like those in paper format, just so she can, those are forms that you do request for open meetings, you get it. They can just pick which meetings they want to be notified about, and then she does that for the entire year, and then they always have to resubscribe next year, and she does need some information like that. But some of these other ones, they're all done through the website. Licensing is a second round to that iWork, so hopefully it'll be kind of in coordination with that planning and zoning software. But as far as I know, most of our forms can be sent through our website or done through another type of program.
Do the PDFs have to be filled in, or can they be, I'm not saying that right, do they have to be written, or can you use a fillable PDF? that they
You can
could
do a
then
fillable
save and-
PDF.
Okay, so
Mhm.
then they could save it online and submit it without having to print it.
That way, at least the only ones I found though, but it's not.
So
those
is
are
it the
going
ones
away.
with the building and zoning?
Yeah, so those are
Because the
going
building
away.
and zonings have a lot of information on them where you have to check and write really specific information on those. So the building and zoning ones don't work quite as nicely done that way. Other forms, maybe like utility form where it's just sharing information, some of those can be those fillable PDFs. But those, like when you get into new construction forms, even electrical, they all have really specific information that you check mark on when you're filling those out. So that may be on that.
One thing I did notice, at least for me, my demographic information is a little bit dated, so I'm going to update that. And if any of you haven't done that in the last year or two, maybe it might be wise to just look at it and say, is that still correct? And maybe update it if it isn't. So, okay.
Yeah. And if you send me anything, I can get it updated rather quickly.
Yeah, she's fast. I told her about something, within an hour, she had it changed.
Well, if you didn't notice, I got word the day after your last council meeting that you guys were discussing a report a pothole function of form.
Mhm.
And so I was quickly able to create a form with that where you could add a picture and a button. So we got that on the website pretty quickly. Oh, okay. Well,
Boy, I probably didn't just knowing, but like when I go down the calendar and I look at the meetings and events, like I feel like it should say view all meetings. And when I click on events, view all events, but I'm guessing if I click on that bottom right, it's gonna take me to the same place either one.
I don't think it'll take you to the same place. I mean, it'll take you to the same module. Like we have a background interface
One will
with
be
that.
meetings, one will be events.
I don't know if when you click on it, there's a select a calendar function over here to the right.
Yeah, what I mean is like on the previous page,
Mm-hmm.
when I'm under the meetings tab, it says view all events. When I'm under the events tab, it says view all events. Should it
Oh, I
say
see.
view all meetings and then it should say view all events? Is that correct? Or is it
I could check to see if I can make that change.
I don't know.
Yeah. I could check into that. Well, I think the next item on the agenda is that
Yeah.
mine as well, just to go right into. Are you guys ready to talk Unicode meeting software?
Yeah.
Okay.
Think so. Unless
All right.
somebody got other questions about the website. No, let's move on.
Okay.
Item B.
All right. So I'm going to share a little bit about our Unicode meeting software. The city clerk handles quite a bit of the agenda and packet creation. And we really needed to kind of improve that process internally and for the residents to be able to view that. And so the solution we found was Unicode. And we have actually already started the implementation process of this software, and we are really excited. We had our first training session. Melissa and I had our first training session yesterday. We are doing homework today, and then we have another training session tomorrow. and then we'll have 2 more next week. And then we will be complete with ours. But this software is a cloud-based software. So this adds some really great flexibility for staff when they're turning in documents to go on to go into the packet or to be put on the agenda. It also, and one of the best functions is it provides a centralized location to submit these items to. Currently, kind of the process that we're doing is through email and a shared drive, and as you update documents, they can be sent back 2 or 3 times as you're kind of working through those documents to get to the final draft. And that can sometimes become tedious, as long as if someone's waiting for an approval and the other person doesn't know, it can really hold up the process. So this centralized location will be really great for internal processes. We have unlimited meetings included with our software, unlimited boards, commissions. So we can do this software for city council and then move on to all the committees and meetings and boards within the city, which will be great for them as well. It allows the city clerk to kind of create a packet and agenda at the same time, which will just be great for time saving. And it will also limit the need to print packets. So we won't have to print those extremely long packets and have those available to you. It'll just be really accessible to you on the computers in front. This Municode also has the ability to do in-meeting roll call. It can do in-meeting voting, so that kind of capability. So when you guys are within that software, you can actually do your voting through that, and then it'll automatically be put in the meetings to show that actual meeting and roll call.
Were you going to use that?
When I've asked for training for you guys, I would like them to train you on it so that it will be really easy to use. I think it would be a great benefit to use, but of course, if it's something that you don't find beneficial, I think you ultimately have the choice to decide. But I think it'll be great for Melissa to have that.
I like that idea.
Mhm.
But one concern I have is how do people make a motion and then second a motion? Is that in that software too?
Well, I think everything should still be done verbally. I think you should still have a verbal record. But I think it will be so easy that just to click it, that it'll show that as well. Let me get to the picture here. And then, so what this does, so when you do that online, when you do that kind of roll call and meeting through the software, there's this in-meeting public display. So it's just another way that the viewers can see what's happening live. They don't necessarily have to be watching it, but they can see what agenda item you're on and what the vote is for that. So that's kind of how those things kind of work together. So this is what you would see. It's kind of hard because it's just screenshots from this, but you would log in and you would see just this area up here. And there's this meeting list. You click on the meeting list and here will come up with all your meetings, and then you'll have a link to go to your PDF, or you can view it through like a web browser. And this is how you'll get to agenda and packets, to your agenda and packet. The agenda will just be linked. So if you have something on, let's say ordinance 457, and you guys are talking about it, you can click on that number and it'll just go to that direct place in that packet for you to see.
So have they let you use this yet? Like, have you been able to do it personally?
Yeah, we have. So as of today, I've been able to create test agendas, test packets. That's kind of the stage we're at with our training. So we're just kind of at the base training, and then we'll be able to really dive in and learn some more. But it's very easy to use, and that's kind of what we were really looking for. We didn't want this really complicated thing.
Is this going to automatically publish the packets to the public as well, so
Yes.
that they can see what's on our packet and other boards and committees
Yep.
packets?
Oh, and I completely missed one of the best features is there's one click publishing. So when it goes to you and you get notified, it'll also get published onto our website. That will also stay on our website. So it won't be replaced every meeting like it is done currently. So
That's awesome.
the packet will be available, until we'd have to remove that packet for it not to be unavailable. There is an option, there is a way where if there's sensitive information in it, that sensitive document would just be seen to the city council members, and the public would still get to see the full rest of the packet. So there are some.
And I assume that if Jeff swears off ever using a computer again, that there is a way to get control creating you guys print off the
Yep,
form.
there's still just a really easy button printer. You click it, we print it off, and then you can have it. So it would be easy to do it either way. It would be stored on the cloud under Unicode. They use, and this may be something that I'm not as confident answering, and I'd have to ask for you, but it would be stored in their secure cloud. Nope, they said it would be very easily. We asked that question, and they said it would be no problem. They don't own our materials. They don't own that information. They just own the software, and that we would be able to migrate all that information to somewhere else. So this kind of shows you a little bit of a view on how you would vote. So it really is just a pop-up. You do yay, abstain, nay. You submit your vote through there. Now, it doesn't show the motion or the second, so I believe that would still all be done verbally. This would just be able to show what the end vote would be. And then when it comes out, this is what that end display, that end meeting display looks like to the public. And it just shows what the item is and how the votes came out. And we could have this up on a computer in here to see as we're going through the agenda. You can give it out. So you can give the link out to people. So if they would prefer to follow along this way, they can see it in that way.
So are you talking about having that on this kind of information on the screen?
We could.
Yeah.
It just depends on how we want to handle this link. If we want it to be where this is what we show the screen on, like if we've shown the map and all the information at the end, we want to go to this and show the vote, or if we just want to.
Yeah, that might be too much work, but I mean, there would be a way to do it. I
Yeah.
know, but yeah, whether it's really worth it, I guess, is a
Yeah.
totally different question.
I think it would just be up to us, and we can kind of see how we want to use this feature. This was just an additional feature, so we can kind of decide on how that works for us.
If we think about this, I think we need a fourth option. And I don't know if they've approached that or not, but if somebody's absent, that's different than abstaining.
I wonder what would happen. So yeah, I can check into that and see how that would work, and how that would reflect if that would be the case. And then lastly, I did just kind of want to show what it would look like from the public view from our website. This is just, what's nice about this is it's similar to what our website looks like now, but it has a place for agendas, agenda packets, minutes, video, and then some more additional details. We can kind of set this portal up on how we want to look like. I've seen others that have a big live button up here, so that if they come here, then they can click on this button and go straight to the live stream. I've seen them have a subscribe button. We can really kind of pick what our goal is when they get to this page, and then we can make it that way. As I do think the overall look would be like this too. Some great things about this is you have some better search capabilities, so you can do date ranges, you can go down and pick specific commissions and committees. One thing I think people are missing on kind of the agenda center that we have now is that if you scroll down, you can actually see all of our city meetings. You can see planning commission, tree board, all the agendas up there. But if you don't scroll past city council, sometimes you don't see those. So just the way that shows up is just a little different. So I think it is kind of nice that this one shows all of them, and then you can just dial down to which commission and which committee you're really looking for. I'm I'm sorry, what was your question?
If you make that list by date, it would show all the upcoming meetings that way instead of having to scroll past all the city council meetings to get to the USC meeting.
Well, are you just talking about our current, the way we show it?
Said that we would have to scroll past
That is on our current
On the
website. I'm sorry, I may have confused you. On our current website, it's shown in categories and not necessarily by dates. So you have to scroll through the top 15 city council meetings before you see that there's a planning commission section and then a tree board section and things like that. So that's why I think sometimes people don't realize that we have planning commission agendas on there as well, so. And unfortunately, that's not something I can change in the website. On our current website, they have something that is Civic Plus is built with these modules in the background. So when you go into their like agenda center and their document center, those things are pretty much stationary, and then I can just upload information into them.
But this is coming soon, and it's
But
gonna
this is going to replace our agenda center.
what's
That's
already
correct.
on our website.
Yes, so we won't have to worry about that now. That's why I was just saying I think this is an improvement over our current situation.
So this is something the public will have available to them as well.
Yes,
Will
yes,
it be
this
a
is
link
the
in
public
website?
view.
Will this be in the link in the website then?
Yep, so basically it'll just be where we currently now have our agendas and our button there, it'll just redirect to this page. So everything will just switch to this. And what's nice about this is we also now have a search bar, search capability within this. So if you ever want to search for a specific item, they can search and then see whichever agendas had that information on it or whatever.
That
whatever
doesn't
packet
search
it
the
was in.
PDFs, does it? It just searches, surely not. It
It's a-
searches all the titles, or does it actually go in and dig
It
into?
goes in and digs into it.
Really? That's awesome.
So this is a public view. Those are some great updates on that. So they will actually be able to go back and reference those packets, search the agendas and packets with whatever keywords they're looking for.
I like your idea of the live button, but it's only active if we're actually having a meeting.
If we're live. Yeah, and I'll have to look into that and see exactly what we can do about that and what we'd like to learn. Oh, and well, here's some more. This is just another option. See, here's this one where it says live meetings. Everyone's is just kind of set up a little different. I would like it to look similar to our website so they don't know that they're going away from it, but it looks like we have kind of a range of things on what we can do. Is there anything?
So you're just now getting training on this, so it's what's the plan to roll this out?
So after we're done with training, I guess I should leave this up. So after me and Melissa are done with our training next week, then the department heads or people that will be submitting items to the agenda and packet, they'll get their training, and it'll be a 160-minute training with a 30-minute question and answer follow-up about a week later after they are working within the system. And then we will be, I think within that timeline, we'll be fairly close to going live. And then as soon as we go live, we'll schedule training for you so they can train you on how to do. And I believe it'll probably just be before a city council meeting, or we'll find a time that works well with everyone, but that you can view the packets and that you can learn how to do the roll call and the online voting if you wish. I don't have a final projected date, but let's see. So we're one more week out for training. I would say probably about 4 weeks is being kind of conservative.
The middle to the end of May.
Will council members submit agenda items via the same process?
No, you'll need to submit those through, I believe you'll want to request that through the city manager.
Okay.
And then we can go through that process.
That's how it's worked in the past. I just wasn't
Mhm.
sure if you're moving us to the system as well.
I almost hate to ask this question, but if we have a way to vote through this, does that mean we'd have a way to, would the mayor be looking at something, a different type of screen than we would? Or who is the one?
No, because that voting will only be really that display, that public display that shows that on there. And your votes then get transferred to the minutes that Melissa has that works within the system as well. I don't believe there'll be any, I believe you guys could see that same screen, like if you had that screen pulled up on your computer as well, but I don't think there's a separate screen for mayor.
But I assume somebody will kind of curate the agenda process as the meeting's going on, right? Someone will have
Yes.
to tell the system that we've moved from agenda item
Yes,
one
that,
to agenda item 2.
yep, and that would be Melissa. She'll be back there because the system allows her to kind of create her minutes as the meeting is going. So just these kind of steps that you're doing, like the roll call and the voting, that just gets directly transferred to her minutes. And then she will be the one that's saying, okay, they're on this agenda item, they're on this agenda item, and so on.
If we hit yay and submit, can we change it to no and then submit again?
I'm sure there has to be a process for that. I don't know exactly. I'm sure there has to be a way that you can change your votes.
Mr. Mayor, yes, I would just say that this would be, picture this as a interactive layer. However, for your record, just think whatever the mayor announces and you don't protest right after the vote and makes it into the minutes, that's what's going to be the official record. So this would be more of an interactive accessory. But as far as our code and our bylaws are written, the official vote will be called by the mayor, and any protest that occurs at that time or right after the vote will be the official, way to kind of counter that. So,
And
Maybe just a trial type of thing, but we still have to do the same process as we currently.
right, until you're comfortable enough to integrate it as an official part of your process, we want to hold on.
I think we need to maintain the voice vote no matter what we do.
I think that's best practice.
Because the reason I was asking, because it'd almost be great if the process of telling the mayor if we wanted our turn to talk, if you could run it through that same piece of software, but it doesn't sound like that's the point of this software.
No.
Now that we've installed these things already, I'm sure Ty is thrilled to hear me trying to replace his equipment that we haven't actually used yet.
Yeah, and there's a publish button that Melissa would have on her end where once the votes were in, she would hit a publish and then it would go to the public. So I think there's still some time where if you needed to switch a vote or accidentally hit something, there's time to do that.
Quite often.
Mhm.
Click something because I'm going across something.
Yeah.
Mike's gonna say yay from last time. I accidentally hit submit when I'm heading
And
over.
I don't think I think the way it works, and of course I haven't been through all of my training and I haven't really been able to dive in, but I don't think that voting portion pops up until you're on that item. And she opens it up for voting. So it might not ever keep your votes there. It might all start up gray again. We'll see. We'll learn together. Yes, I understand. Is there any other questions? Once I get a more defined timeline on when your training will get closer to that date, I will definitely let Ty know and get that information to you.
Do you have so my basic understanding of how this used to be done and how this is done now? So like having documents to update and then someone else needs to update. No one knows who updated it first and trying to keep track of what the latest version of the document is. I'm sure it was a huge headache. Do you have an estimate on time savings that this will provide? I know that's probably you might need to give me a range or something, or it depends on the week or.
Because every meeting is different. I mean, it's like last meeting where you had, what you guys reached, 23 items on the meeting and honestly, every item has its own issues that come with it, just depending on what it is. Does that make sense? If Ann's waiting on something from a contractor or if a last minute item comes in and gets put onto the agenda and Melissa has to kind of do some quick rearranging. I don't have a great time savings estimate, but I know that this workflow and this is so needed. for all of our employees. And so I might have a better idea after it's implemented on kind of sharing that with you.
Yeah, after we use it for a while, I didn't realize it might be tough to completely track perfectly, but I would be interested in knowing the time savings, because it would be my guess that, for your mental health, it's going to be fantastic, because my understanding of how this works is going to be a lot smoother. But it'd be interesting in the time saving as well.
And I just thought I would add, Unicode, we're not locked into a contract with them. We just have to provide them 60-day notice. And then if something is not working in the way we expected it to work. So that's always nice not to be locked into a contract with something.
If you're working towards a Six Sigma black belt, this would be a great project for you to show the savings there, but very good. Any other questions or concerns about this issue? I look forward to seeing some more stuff within the next 4 weeks or so.
Well,
Great.
thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And
Very good. Okay, well, I think we're ready to move on to the Public Works issue of sidewalks. A couple of years ago, we started code enforcement. Actually, we hired a code enforcer, and she started enforcing sidewalk repairs, and it got a lot of pushback. Got a lot of citizens very interested and anxious about that. What we learned is that state law, and I'll let Ms. Kelly correct me if I misspeak anything here, but we learned state law says that property owners adjacent to sidewalks are responsible for their maintenance. Well, in Bel Aire, unlike some cities, I think I learned today that Derby doesn't do this, but in Bel Aire, when we do a new development, we require sidewalks on one side of the street, but not the other. They told me today that they require it on both sides of the streets. I'm not sure I would want to go there. I think that what we're doing is fine, but the problem that creates when it comes to maintenance is that some of us never pay a dime for maintenance of our sidewalks because we don't have one right in front of our house, but we use them in the neighborhood. So it just seemed like that was really an unfair way of managing the sidewalk repair item. So I started reaching out to folks and looking at different ideas. I talked with 3 HOAs, and I got 3 different opinions. One HOA said that they would like to take charge of their own sidewalk maintenance. Another one said they would like the city to take it and they would pay a fee. And a third one said they didn't really know where they stood on it. So that's kind of the lay of the land. I did try to get a hold of all of the ones I could find, but those are the only ones I was able to actually meet with. So that's where they are. I think that Ms. Kelly has some other proposals here that we've not really discussed a lot, but I'm certainly willing to discuss them now. And so there were just ideas about how can we go about this. So I'll let her kind of give her synopsis of the ideas that she has. And then we can talk some more.
Okay, my
Is your mic
perspective. Oh, let me move it closer. I'm more going over the limitations on what we can do, and I think you covered that. I don't know if Ty, were you going to talk about these alternatives, or do you want me to cover them?
Okay. All right. That's fine.
Sorry. So for my perspective, I think you covered it well, that you can never get rid of that long-term duty of the abutting homeowner unless you're going to create some sort of special easement where the city now owns, maintains, and is liable for what goes on those sidewalks throughout the city, which it's nice to a degree, but then when you can't watch and supervise what goes on those sidewalks, you're really taking on quite a lot of mileage for the city to maintain. So, so long as it's a traditional sidewalk, the state statute does require that a homeowner maintain it. Now, if we want to provide grants or do something else to kind of alleviate that, we can, but we never, I would not recommend that we take on wholesale responsibility for any section of sidewalk.
Mr. Mayor, I think last time this was discussed a couple of years ago, one of the options that somebody presented was like the creation of a fund to reimburse all or a portion of the repair costs of some sidewalks. I don't remember, is that something that is permitted under the statutes?
That is, so reimbursement, yeah, that's like a one-time offset, and I think it's in one of the options here. Again, that's not taking on the responsibility. I think my concern is more an HOA suggesting that the city take on that responsibility altogether.
Is it allowed for an HOA to take on the responsibility on behalf of the homeowners of their association, or is the statute so specific that it has to be that individual property owner?
I could see how a civil issue, I can see how a homeowner might grant an HOA permission to come onto their sidewalk and do all maintenance. I can see that, but I haven't delved into the civil prospect of a homeowner giving their authority and their property right to an organization like an HOA.
I was just curious.
I think that's interesting, though.
One thing that I brought up related to this, and it's not in the packet, but I've had some citizens say things about sidewalks being damaged because trucks drive over them that shouldn't be. Delivery trucks, I think in one case they showed me a truck that was delivering a bald tree, and had actually driven over the sidewalk. And obviously that put a lot of stress on them. Whether you saw cracks in the sidewalk as a result of that, that may come later, but it obviously put stress in that sidewalk that it's not intended for. I didn't know if we could do anything in an ordinance wise for that. And I know that's a little bit of a side issue, but I know that I also had mentioned it to you about what can we do with that. So I just wondered if there was anything that you found on that.
Yeah, so the city manager and I talked with the city engineer, and in her expert opinion, she's thinking, so a homeowner, anytime a truck is driving over a sidewalk for developments, we've taken care of our agreements to make sure that the development process has as much truck movement happening before that sidewalk is put in. And if there's any damage or major movement after sidewalks are put in, the paving companies are liable and responsible. And we kind of do we do inspection to see, if we can figure out if there's any damage there. So we feel like we've gotten that portion under control at initial build. Now, the problem that you're talking about comes up when a homeowner decides to have a landscaper or a delivery truck or a pool company come onto their property, and that's the key, to deliver something to their backyard, having to go over the sidewalk. That issue, again, becomes a civil issue between that homeowner and the truck company, and the homeowner kind of, passing on that liability to that company. Our engineer is concerned about if we get in that process and we say, last weekend we saw this truck hop the sidewalk and we're seeing fractures from that. Are we able to prove that damage, that stress occurred from that truck and wasn't a long period? It wasn't, 3 years ago when the homeowner had landscaping done at first. Like, should it be split between the two? She's not wanting to get in on that. Have the city.
I wouldn't want to go down that road either.
Yeah. So that, as far as like getting in and kind of supporting or enforcing a homeowner's kind of control of who comes on their property, not really interested in that. Another prospect might be, a truck illegally kind of hops the sidewalk for a reason that we don't know. That we may be able to enforce. We can enforce through our STO, our standard traffic ordinance, for vehicles supposed to be on the roadways.
Yeah.
So that might be something, criminal,
might be a
it's
stretch.
small. Yeah, it's small. But if the council is seeing they want something more than those two options, one being a homeowner kind of enforcing on their property and making agreements with companies, or two being we enforce through our STO traffic ordinances. If you all are wanting something more than that, we can talk about it. But we think, based on our engineer's judgment, those two seem to take care of the lion's share of the problems that we're having.
So it sounds like that from what you said about the paying of repairs, you're recommending we don't move away from homeowner responsible for payment of repairs. We might look at options to reimburse them, but you wouldn't take that responsibility away from them. So they would still own the responsibility of assuring that people don't come onto their property and damage their sidewalks, or put stress on their sidewalks.
Exactly.
Okay, I appreciate that. Okay. Mr. Lasher, do you want to run through your scenarios there that you've created?
Yes, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
So yeah, first of all, this is not a unique situation to Bel Aire. Every city deals with this. I have a network of city managers and they're always asking, how are you doing it? Are you doing grants? How much are you doing? Those types of things. So, so it's not unique. Everybody deals with it. The question that you have is how do you want to deal with it? So really there's two ways to deal with it. One is that you just continue the way we're doing it and say, homeowner, it's your responsibility. That's the way the state, our codes and the state legislature has handled this situation. Or do you want to assist with the repairs? And that's done through grants. Basically, you know, cities can do grants for different purposes. So you'd have a sidewalk grant. The last piece that you have to think about is how do you fund it? And how much do you want to do that? So you can do 100% grant. You could say, let's set aside 20,000 every year and people can come in and apply. And then we would send somebody out to determine which are the worst ones. And then when that $20,000 is gone, we're gone. You could do a 50%, set whatever it is that you wanted to share in the cost, or cover the whole cost. And then really what we would do is create basically a grant program, and you would approve that. You would set the budget. You would set the, if it's 100% or whatever cost share it may be, and then we would administrate it. So, so really those are your options, and it's up to you on, how you'd like to move forward and how much you'd like to budget and how you want to cost share.
Do we know how much has been spent each year?
Yes.
Good that
so,
you asked.
So the mayor actually asked, and so we looked into that, and really it's been, so what we've done in the past is, our code enforcement officer goes out, finds the problems, and then we contact the homeowners, and then what's worked out well is then they all say, yes, I want to do this, and we get one bid to replace so many panels, and it's been about 20,000 is kind of what we spent the last couple years. Not we've spent, but I mean, homeowners have spent the project. And of course, that's not all of them. I think the thing you have to keep in mind is that, again, going back to the cost share, if you were going to do 100%, then you're going to have anybody that's got a crack or chip or whatever along with the bad parts. So, at that point, you'd have to set an amount. We'd have to determine which are the worst to do every year. So
Was that 20,000 because we had code enforcement go out finding these places, or? Okay, and I'm assuming that they weren't repairing them just because they were cracked. They were repairing them because there was a
Trip hazards.
trip hazard, a gap, something that
Right.
was.
Yep.
And I don't,
Yep.
so I guess what I'm saying is I would propose that we set aside some amount of money, $20,000 to be spent on the ones that code enforcement would say needed repaired, not something with just a crack in it. And allow the homeowners to apply for a percentage of that pot.
Okay.
And I ask again about the 20,000 because I think we didn't fix any of them for quite a while because we didn't have any code enforcement.
Right.
So I don't know what this year's
So
would be.
before that, it was, I don't know, 5 to 10,000.
Yeah, okay. So at most, we could set aside 20,000, maybe 10 would be more appropriate. I don't know.
Yeah, looking over the history, he gave me a little bit of history here from 2013 to 2020, and the worst year it looked like was a little over 11,000 was the worst year. And of course, what we don't know here is what people did on their own, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
so
'cause there were some
so we
who did on
can't
their own.
really say what that is. So, but I like the idea of code enforcement making the determination that, yeah, this is something that's grant worthy because it's a tripping hazard. You know, because we don't want to go fix the little crack, cement's going to crack. It just, that's what it does.
Yep.
What about the thought of, is there any value in thinking about doing it every other year in the sense that like one bid more at the time, cheaper? Is that, are we talking about any kind of savings or worth it? Or are we going to have cracked sidewalks that last too long because we do every other year or every period of time? Or I'm not really a sidewalk person, so I'm just kind of asking.
So Ted will tell you he wants a set amount every year because it's easy to budget for. And that's the way you just spend that every year. So that's what he would say. And I think probably from a practical standpoint, it's probably good to be doing it every year. So people are aware that, we're concerned about sidewalks and we do it every year. And if we didn't get it done this year because it wasn't as bad, and then it heaves a little bit more next year, then we'll get it next year. So because we may run into that when you're cost sharing, we may have more people say, hey, I have a problem. And, if you're going to pay part of it, I'm happy to pay part of it. So we may have a higher demand than we do regularly. So I would recommend so much a year and just do it every year.
Yeah, I really like the idea of doing something here. I feel like the sidewalks are something that benefit the whole community, not just the folks who happen to have them in front of their house. And so I like the idea of being able to help here. I think the idea of setting aside a certain amount of money every year and making that available either to reimburse homeowners or to let people apply for it is a good one, as long as it's not a huge amount of money. I don't think we're talking about a huge amount of money here for something that is pretty significant, I think, for the community. I see our sidewalks get used a lot. I use our sidewalks a lot. There's always people walking, and I think that's great. So I definitely support doing something here.
You do realize that some of the older homes do not have sidewalks. I do not have a sidewalk on either side of my house. I'm on the corner.
Yep, that's true.
Yep. So I remember, I think it was 2019 when we went through this, or if I recall correctly, because it was
I think you're right. Yeah.
before COVID.
Yeah.
So
BC.
So I remember this issue bubbled up, and so I'm a homeowner that has a sidewalk, and I remember when I first learned, because I did have 2 squares of sidewalk that were broken and not in good shape. Excuse me, clearly had to be repaired. And I remember learning about this. I think, we got the letter, right? We got the letter, right? So I remember saying to my wife, I said, "Can you believe this? This is crazy. We have to pay for the sidewalk that's in front of our house. It's a publicly used thing. This is outrageous." So I was initially like kind of shocked because I'm like, this thing has been broken for years, and now I find out about it, right? So I had that visceral human reaction to such a thing, but after I calmed down, I got an education over time. So I started Googling it and researching this issue, and we had our discussion here in the council chambers about it and started talking about it. And the more I looked into it, the more I realized, like is mentioned in our documentation here, 85% of the cities across the country have the homeowner that abuts the sidewalk be responsible for it. And I've done my own independent reading and research about this issue and looked at, heard opinions and read things. But I guess where I land on this is I think it's reasonable to keep things as they are. I think it's reasonable that the homeowners that have the sidewalks are responsible and liable for them. I think that's a good thing. Liability is a concern. So a homeowner that has a badly damaged sidewalk where someone, can prove they were injured as a result of the sidewalk being in disrepair, the homeowner is liable. But in certain situations, the city can be liable as well, is my understanding. Because if they allow the homeowner to go so long without repairing it, there's shared liability from what I understand. And if we're talking about, so I had that reaction like, oh, well, not everyone has sidewalks. So why shouldn't the people that don't have sidewalks also pay for them? And, well, there's no liability sharing. So if we're going to talk about city grants or cost sharing or setting aside a budget or something to aid homeowners, which sounds like a nice idea for sidewalk repair. That's a, financial thing, but there's no liability. There's no shared liability really. In the same sense that the homeowner with the broken sidewalk will be more likely liable than the homeowners that don't have a sidewalk. So, I don't know. I'm against any kind of cost sharing for this issue. I think, it's pretty well established that this is kind of the way things are. Now, I know there's lots of cities that do all kinds of different things, but I don't know. I'm not convinced that we need to go start setting aside city money. I think the reason there's such a reaction to this amongst homeowners in Bel Aire is because, for like 10 years, there was like total neglect on this issue and it hasn't been brought up. And when it's brought up and you gotta, I think the way the letter was worded too also created an emotional response, certainly in myself and no doubt other homeowners as well. Because it was kind of like you had 30 days to pay, or it was kind of not gentle in its approach of communicating the issue. But I think, I don't know, I'm convinced that, it was kind of upsetting to kind of initially get that. But once it kind of, I don't know, I guess I'm just settled on the fact that I think it's reasonable that the homeowners with sidewalks, especially when there's, we've got communities that have like no sidewalk anywhere. It's one thing if you're just a homeowner across the street, maybe there's a case that can be made, but there's whole neighborhoods that don't have sidewalks. And I don't know. I think I'm against changing it. I certainly against cost sharing in general in whatever form it takes. I think if we're consistent in trying to enforce these things in kind of a general sense, or at least getting, a little education needed to take place for myself. And I'm sure it was similar to a lot of the other homeowners that got letters that had broken sidewalks, because that sidewalk's been broken for a long time. Why am I just getting it now? So I get it. I'm not convinced that the city needs to set aside any sort of money to go do this. You can write me an angry email about that. That's fine. But that's where I'm.
I think if you're going to take that stance, then we don't pay for the brush site either. And there's probably some other things we shouldn't pay for because not everybody in the city uses them.
Yeah, well, I get a prescription benefit for eyeglasses from my health insurance at my work, but I don't have glasses. So, there's all kinds of things. I just don't see.
I'm just saying, if we can't spend
think
$10,000 on sidewalks, why would we spend $10,000 on a brush site?
I don't think that's relevant to this issue. I don't think it shares
I think
the
it's
same.
exactly the same issue.
It's not exactly the same. Half the homes have sidewalks. Half
And
don't. The brush sites.
probably half the homes never bring anything to the brush site, at least half. So,
Mr. Mayor, I would also kind of, I think maybe you and I had this part of the conversation, but just thinking about when you buy something and you're on notice. So you have an option to buy 5 homes in Bel Aire. One of them comes with a fence. Well, that fence comes with a certain maintenance responsibility. There's some codes that require you to do certain things to that wood fence every certain number of years. But once you see that fence, you're on notice. Even though you don't know the law behind it and the requirements, once you see it, you're on notice. Similarly with a sidewalk, you can buy a house with a sidewalk in front of it or buy a house without a sidewalk in front of it. Once that you see that sidewalk, that's even though it doesn't, as Councilmember Elsoff said, it doesn't, go as deeply as telling you what responsibility comes with that. You're on legal notice once you see that sidewalk on your, in front of your home and everything that comes with that. So I guess the standard there is, unfortunately, though we may or may not know, we have a choice to buy a home with a sidewalk in front of it or buy a home without a sidewalk in front of it. That plays into the analysis as well.
right, but I think your argument fails on that because the sidewalk's not on my property. It just abuts my property. I know the fence is on my property and I'm responsible for it. Most people aren't familiar with the sidewalk laws when they buy a house. They don't find out until after they've lived there for 10 years and they have to pay to fix the sidewalk.
This is true.
Mr. Mayor? My thoughts, I agree with Councilman Elshoff in the sense that he's totally right that this is the rule. It sounds like this is normal. We weren't doing anything unreasonable. We were following state statutes. And therefore having it the way we've always had it was not a wrong thing to do, or, maybe we could do it nicer, but it was all appropriate action. I agree with him. But I tend to more want to do something about this, not because I think it's necessarily just unfair, necessarily like a fairness issue. It's like, if it's only going to cost us $20,000 or $10,000 a year to have a more beautiful city, and if we hire a code enforcement officer, which we'd have to spend 40, 50, I don't know, whatever we pay, it's actually cheaper and likely have a prettier city to do this than it would be to keep it the status quo. So I kind of have value in trying to keep our city looking really good, and really, even though I'm not really good at the pretty stuff, I think that is a valuable thing. And to have our, the city looking as good as possible, I think this is the cheapest way to do it, the most efficient way to do it. Though requiring the homeowner to do it is not unfair or unjust. I don't necessarily see it that way. I just think that this may be sort of the best way, cheapest way to keep our city looking as, up to snuff and beautiful as possible.
Any other comments? So it sounds like the consensus is we want to do something here. So I would suggest maybe staff develop something that you think is legally sustainable, and make a proposal to us. Maybe come back. Maybe it'd be another workshop. I don't know if we want a workshop or if we just bring it straight to council, but it'd probably have to be a change in ordinance, wouldn't it?
Not necessarily, not with a grant program,
Oh,
but
okay, that's
if,
right.
yeah, we can see if we need to workshop it and then bring it back.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Smith.
just one comment. I think if we're going to do something here, I don't know that it has to be 100% reimbursement. It is just a thought that I want to share. And I also think there might be some value in letting homeowners submit for it without needing a code enforcement notice to do that. Because if we can get people to submit to the sidewalk program voluntarily and ask to be included in the program and the process for some reimbursement, perhaps we can cut down on the amount of code enforcement inspection necessary to identify the problems. If I, as a homeowner, know that, yeah, it's like roughly $150 a slab or whatever to get my sidewalk replaced, and I may be able to get a grant to cover like 75% of that, I'm going to snap a picture and send that into the city to get it included in the program. Because for $20, I can get that, eyesore sidewalk panel replaced. And so maybe there's an opportunity to reduce the work of code enforcement and have an opportunity for homeowners to be more proactive in asking to do that.
Mr. Mayor, I'm seeing it the same way in the sense I'm not for 100% free, because you're right. I mean, everybody, for every little scratch and thing that's not bothering them, they might request. But if it's significant, whatever the number is, 75, or we pick some other percent, I was also hoping that the homeowners this would be something that they get involved in. We're no longer chasing homeowners down isn't quite so hard when they don't have to put, such a large,
But it has to
fit the whole bill.
But we'd have to make some statement that it has to be a tripping hazard. It can't be just a simple crack, because you're going to have cracks in cement.
Of course. I mean, however we want to word that or whatever.
Maybe it's an application process. I don't know. I think that's something that our staff can help us put together. But
Right.
I wanted to at least throw out the idea that there may be a way to reduce the burden on code enforcement to walk and identify all these issues by asking
Oh,
some
yeah, I think that's
homeowners to
great.
submit.
That's saying that they could apply for it, but I wanted code enforcement to review it as something that was necessary.
Right. Yeah, I think that's. Do you feel like you have enough information, enough direction there? Okay.
Yes.
Great. Good. Thank you. Okay. Other issues we need to talk about on workshop?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Smith.
can you give us an update? How are we doing on filling our open police officer positions? I saw that was on the website. Apply for some positions. Are we having any luck?
So we've got 3 offers for all experienced police officers that have been trained and certified. And they're going through their physicals and stuff now. So their offers have been made and it's conditioned upon their approval. So we'll have 3 hopefully in the next, let's see, we're April, by the end of the month, we'll have 3 that will be starting. And we've got the chief, last time I heard, he's had over 100 applications since the council made the change. And before that, he would have 6, maybe a week, maybe, if he was lucky. So it's been a huge change. And like I said, they're all the three officers are experienced. They have 2 to 10 years experience, certified, been on the road. 2 are from Sedgwick County because they're having issues at Sedgwick County with pay and things. So yeah, it was very successful.
Excellent. Thank you for the update.
Do we have an update on where we are in getting things submitted to KDOT for Woodlawn?
Actually got a meeting Thursday with some KDOT staff. They have, the mayor and I met with KDOT and Trans Systems. It's probably been a couple months ago, 3 months ago, to actually talk about how do we get this process moving forward. And so.
Is this Woodlawn you're talking about? Or are you talking about K254?
Oh, 254, I'm sorry. Yeah, I was just thinking
They're both
about
important.
that.
I just want to make sure
Yeah,
we're on the
yeah.
same page.
So let me talk about 254.
Okay, very good.
So yeah, I've got a meeting with them Thursday to talk about what it is they're going to want, and then the county is working on putting together an interlocal agreement between us and them, and then the RFQ for engineers. So that's moving along very well. And Woodlawn, I was talking to Ann today. Unfortunately, the railroad had a change that they wanted made. So now that means that MKC has to go back and make those adjustments, and then KDOT has to review those changes to make sure they're online. But she was hoping that maybe, let's see, so we're May. She was hoping that by August 1st, we could do bidding.
Okay, so when will MKC have their designs updated and submitted to KDOT?
So from what I heard from MKEC, that they received the information from UP, was it last week?
2 weeks now.
2 weeks ago, yeah. They were reviewing that. They were going to make those changes, and then it sounded like they were going to get those over to KDOT this month. I don't know the exact date or if they've sent them over there, but I knew they were reviewing them and making some changes the last time I emailed them, which was a week ago. So I'll find out if they've actually got those updates to their plans over to KDOT.
Were they significant changes?
No, it wasn't. It was some type of inlet or something like that.
What I remember reading about it, they removed some concrete abutments that weren't needed.
Yeah.
And so it's really a less cost option.
Great.
But is there any reason we couldn't go on and submit the KDOT forms that we need to submit
So,
concurrently to those designs? Maybe.
from what I
clarify.
understand, KDOT has already reviewed all the MKEC designs, and they were just waiting on those changes. MKEC had to make those updates and then send the updates to them. So I think once they've reviewed the updates, I think they're good. The one thing that I think one of the time frame issues is that they bid out projects once a month.
Mhm.
And so then they have to set the bid date, and then they have to give all the bidders, they have to send the notification out, give the bidders a month to review and get their bids in. So that's why I think we're probably at, if they could get those out June 1, then they could bid July or August at
We're
the
in
latest.
April.
But we're in April now, so is there any reason that you know of, we couldn't get all the forms in KDOT's hands this week or next?
I don't, but again, I'm not on the engineering side. So what I can do is get a hold of MKEC
Because I
and
know
just
Ann said,
follow up.
Ann
on-
said she had some KDOT forms she needed to sign and submit, but I don't remember what those were.
And I think those, what you're talking about, I think she has,
Mhm.
is the way I understood it.
Has
She got
has
all
she
the
submitted
stuff
them or she
back.
just has them on her, she has them
No, I
waiting
think
for
she
something to happen?
signed them and submitted them with the UP stuff that you signed as well.
Okay. So could we get a verification of
Yeah.
exactly where we are and
Yep.
what's our holdup? Make sure that there's nothing between MKEC and City of Bel Air that's keeping this project from moving forward.
Yep. Yeah, I can easily find out exactly where we're at by
Okay.
email to MKC.
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, any other issues? All right, hearing none, I'll dismiss the workshop and we can start into land bank or we can take a break if we need a break. I don't know if we need, can we take 5? Okay, let's take a 5-minute break. Come back here at, I'm going to say 7:50.